Good afternoon, South Africa, and welcome to Afternoon Express. It's a hump day, and it's so good to be back with you. My name is Danilo Acquista. So if you've been following the news of late, you'll notice that there's something that's on everybody's tongues at the moment, and that's the water crisis we're facing. El Nino, fires, droughts. When we speak about the dam levels, today we're discussing this on numerous levels on the show today. First up, we're going to be chatting to an engineer as well as wastewater specialist on what it is that we can do on a macroeconomic point of view, from a policy point of view, infrastructure point of view, to help solve this crisis. Plus, we bring you a representative from the Department of Environmental Affairs and Planning. He'll be sharing more about what you and I can personally do at home to help solve this crisis and hopefully have it never happen again in our country. So lots to get through on the show today. Make sure you guys interact with us on all the social media sites. But speaking about heat, Bon Bizzle's in the kitchen about to make it sizzle.
Woohoo! Good afternoon, South Africa. I'm Bonnie Mbuli. Later on in the loft, we also have superwoman Cindy Nell, who's going to chat to us about what keeps her healthy and happy. Another superwoman I've got in the kitchen with me is Claire Stanley. How you doing, Claire?
Oh, I always love an introduction like that, eh?
I know, right? So today we're going Canadian. What's this about?
Okay, all right, off you go. I'm not going to do an accent. I'm just going to keep my good old South African one. We're doing a baby marrow poutine. So it's a strange concept. Not many people know about it, but it's delicious. It's effectively fries, but today we're using baby marrow. We're going to learn all about it in a moment.
So healthy.
It is a healthier version, yes.
Awesome. And of course, all the recipe and the shopping list are on our website, afternoonexpress.co.za, and hit us up on Twitter at AfternoonChat, #AfternoonExpress, or on Instagram, or comment on our Facebook page. Let's head back to Danilo on the couch with our first guest.
Indeed. So as I mentioned earlier on, the water shortage problems in South Africa have been a hot topic in the news over the past weeks, but many of us are still confused as to exactly what is going on. The news often speaks of El Nino and how it affects the climate, but what exactly is El Nino and how does it work? We have a clip to explain.
Everyone's talking about this year's El Nino, but what's actually happening? And how will the current El Nino affect people around the world? El Nino is a natural phenomenon that shows up when ocean surface temperatures in the eastern central Pacific become warmer than usual. Trade winds normally blow from east to west across this region, sweeping warm surface water away from South America, which allows cold water to well up in its place. But during El Nino, these trade winds weaken or even reverse, leaving the warmer surface water to gather along the South American coast. This phenomenon affects weather conditions across the equatorial Pacific with potential knock-on effects in other parts of the world. The current El Nino is shaping up as one of the strongest in the past half-century. So what can we expect? The most predictable effects of El Nino are wetter weather conditions in certain areas and drier conditions in others.
Absolutely fascinating. It's all very fascinating, but how does this affect South Africa? Is the El Nino, I almost called it El Nino because in Italian it's El Nino, but El Nino the cause of our water crisis, or are there other factors involved? Today we're going to be looking at some of the solutions to the problem, from government and industry to what we can do at home. But first, we need to understand exactly what the current state of affairs are with regards to water supply in our country. Joining us on the couch is engineer and water and wastewater specialist from Gibbs Engineering, Dave Crombie. Now, Dave, we were discussing off air a little bit about this whole crisis in El Nino. Where is it that we're facing, what is South Africa facing in terms of El Nino? Here we're orange. What does that mean?
Well, it means that we can look forward, as a result of exceptional El Nino conditions that are developing, to drier conditions across the eastern part of South Africa in particular, and central South Africa.
Okay, so it's clearly we're in an environmental crisis anyway. We've heard of all the ideas of global warming, etc. What makes El Nino so specific to this time now? Have we experienced something like this before?
Oh yes, indeed. This is a major event building up, last experienced in 1998.
Sure. So
we can look back on history and see what effect such an El Nino had on the climate in South Africa. SA Weather Services has done quite a lot of research into this, and they found that under major event conditions, there is a little bit of a correlation. Unfortunately, they don't have enough data to be conclusive. The softer El Ninos in between don't really seem to have had a major effect on the weather in South Africa.
Sure. So let's take this a slight step back. The news has been going on and on about this crisis, that we are going to have water shortages, droughts, etc. Where are we standing currently in the water crisis in South Africa?
Well, there's certain areas of South Africa that are definitely in serious crisis. Central South Africa, Mangaung and Bloemfontein, they are in serious trouble as we speak, and parts of Durban as well, where the dam, Hazelmere Dam, is actually empty.
Okay. Something we spoke about earlier on was the idea that the dams are not necessarily as impacted by the weather as they are impacted by us as human beings, and the way that we overconsume. And I think that's been a big issue from an environmental point of view for a long time, is the overconsumer being the middle class of our country. Dams, tell us about the process of dams. How does that work? How do we know when they're empty? How do we fill them?
Well, dams are built on rivers to store water through the seasonal changes from rainy season. The water is stored in the dam and made available in the dry season. So most of the dams in South Africa run from 100% full or close to 100% full down to about 50% full by design. And when we have a situation like we have in the current climatic conditions, a lot of our dams are not reaching 100% full in the wet season. And for that reason, the authorities have been quite right in imposing water restrictions early, not so much for conserving water for this coming dry season, but for the subsequent one. If we have poor rains over the next year, we will still have, on average, enough water in South Africa to tide us over.
Sure. So the recent crisis was obviously in Johannesburg, I think, with the rain not appearing until there was a whole month where there wasn't enough rain that was expected to happen. What are some of the effects of having our dams at this low level and the rain obviously not filling those dams in time?
Well, the Central Vaal area around Mangaung is a classic example of the rain not filling the dams over a period of several years. And the consequence is now that they are restricted down to, as of yesterday, 50% water restrictions.
Sure.
Which is very severe. I've not come across that at all in South Africa ever before. So it is a severe event for them. The Gauteng area is a little different. There they do actually have an adequate supply. Rains have been about 20% down on average. But there are other factors that are affecting the area, and as we all know, the authorities have been running short of water in supply. So in that particular instance, it's not because the dams are empty, but because there's an overconsumption.
Yeah. So speaking of which, there are probably loads of factors that are involved with water shortages and drought, etc. What are some of those factors that are involved with the crisis that we're facing now? Because, you know, El Nino is one of those sort of examples. Droughts, another example. Overconsumption is another one. Overuse in industries, too. What are all those factors that are involved with something like a water crisis?
Well, it is geographically distributed. So, as I was saying, rainfall does affect certain areas. South Africa is endowed with some amazing water schemes. For example, water is transferred from Lesotho Highlands through to the Vaal Dam. We have another major transfer scheme from the Gerib Dam on the Orange River through to the Fish River, which eventually services the Port Elizabeth area. So this interconnection helps us ride through the dry periods and redistribute what nature has provided to where the water is needed for domestic and industrial use.
Sure. So we are going to be discussing with you a little bit later on what it is that we can do from a macroeconomic point of view, from policies, restrictions, etc., in industry. And I'm assuming I want to just understand your role in that process. So how is it that government is involved with helping this?
Well, one of the major opportunities for conserving water is by reuse of water that has previously been used in domestic situation and can be recycled into industrial use and also irrigation where, for example, sports fields, parks and the like. Sure. If they currently were using potable water, they would very beneficially actually use recycled water.
Fantastic. Well, Dave, you're not going anywhere. I'd like to hear from you what it is that we can do from a macro perspective in terms of solving this crisis. And I hope you guys aren't going to go anywhere either. I'd love to hear your thoughts, South Africa. You can find us on 083-913-3728. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you go and find us and send us your comments, because after the break, Bonnie makes us a Canadian-inspired dish called poutine, and we continue our discussion with David Crombie. Don't go anywhere.
Give kids the gift of hearing this Christmas. Are you with us?
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. Great to have you with us. We're in the kitchen. We're about to start our marrow poutine, right? Okay.
First,
what do we do?
I think I should... Do you know what marrow poutine is?
What is a poutine?
Okay, so effectively, traditionally, it's French fries, gravy, cheese. Sounds healthy.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Why are
It's
you
amazing.
using such healthy stuff?
Because baby marrows are in season at the moment, and I'm
Okay.
obsessed with them, and they taste delicious, and it
Yeah.
works so well in this dish. So it really is a fabulous alternative to good old French fries.
Yeah, it is
Not
quite
that I'm
healthy.
against some French
Right,
fries.
Yeah, nobody's against French fries.
So we've got some chopped up here. I'm going to get you to chop up some more.
Into these little fingers.
Yes, indeed.
Okay,
what
perfect.
we're doing here is trying to make these delicious greens, what you would normally fry in a pan. They get a bit flopsy. We're going to
Yes, and
crunch
quickly
these
too.
bad boys up. Like you want that texture of a fry. So you don't
Okay.
want to like substitute something and be like, meh,
Yeah.
it's not the same. This gives you that effect. It's just as good. Promise you.
Okay, perfect.
So we've got some flour here. The crunch comes from these beautiful panko crumbs. So we're going to mix some of these,
Oh, wow.
which are slightly more special breadcrumbs. So it's flaked bread as opposed to crumbled bread.
Right.
Originating from Japan.
Is that what people use with tempura?
Well, tempura
make tempura?
itself is a batter.
It's a
It's not
batter.
actually the crumb. You get people who will add the crumb to it for extra
Yeah,
crunch.
I've
But I feel
noticed
like those are
that.
the peeps that are cheating because they can't get their batter crunchy enough. Just saying. A little bit of salt in here. So that you don't want to put too much because this cheese, the Parmesan cheese, is pretty darn salty. A little bit of pepper. So you're kind of seasoning as you go. This is going to get your the crunch of your marrow nice and, seasoned, and then later we'll season again. So
Okay.
let's take a few of these. You don't want to work in too big of a bunches, otherwise the actual marrows aren't going to get nicely coated.
Okay.
So just kind of
And marrow
toss it
cooks quite
around.
quickly, so you want it quite thick.
Absolutely. And you want it thick. So you're doing it in quarters. You can even do it in halves as long as you do it consistently. So do it all halves or all quarters.
Okay.
So kind of knock off some of this flour here. You don't want to like clump it up with flour, otherwise it's actually going to end up tasting like stodgy from all the flour.
Okay.
Dip that in there. Should we start a little conveyor belt here?
Yes, let's
you
do that.
the
Production
flour
line.
part. Kind of dip and like kind of dunk. You don't want to overdo it.
Okay.
Then toss this up together, and you kind of know that like the cheese is going to get all crunchy, the
yummy.
panko crumbs are going to get all golden. You really are going to end up with baby marrow French fries.
Yeah.
And actually, you can just eat it like this. You don't have if you don't feel like making the whole dish, just make
can
this, and it's
actually
a
eat it,
beautiful
yeah.
accompaniment to say a steak as well.
You're right.
Delicious.
You're right. Can you eat marrow raw?
Definitely.
Well, you can eat anything raw, essentially,
Grated
as long
into
as
a
it's a
salad
veggie.
is delicious. Grated into a coleslaw, amazing. You really can. Don't be shy to eat, especially vegetables raw, because there's so many fabulous nutrients.
So many
in there.
nutrients, yeah. And pop over to our website, afternoonexpress.co.za, for the full recipe and shopping list. Let's head back to the couch to Danilo.
Indeed. So we've been discussing some issues early on about the sort of water crisis that we've been facing in our country at the moment. And early on, myself and Dave Crombie were discussing about what it is that we're facing in terms of our crisis. And it's clear that we are in a crisis, right, Dave? So one thing that I really don't understand is the way that the water system works. As a consumer, I honestly don't know what happens when I flush my toilet. Where does that water go and where did it come from? Can you just talk us through that process?
Yeah, indeed. The dams store the water, and it's generally pretty muddy.
And that comes from the rain, right? So the
That
rain's
comes
full
run-
dams.
It runs off the ground, and it picks up a little bit of silt, and ends up being not very palatable.
Okay.
So it goes through a water treatment process, which is specifically designed with a minimal amount of chemicals to remove those sediments and impurities.
Okay.
And you end up with pure water.
Okay. So it comes from the dams through a filtration system that ends up in our households. We then use that for numerous purposes. What happens then once it goes through the sewage system?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. It gets flushed down the toilet, literally, and it really does go somewhere.
Okay.
And it eventually goes via a system of pipes underground to a wastewater treatment works. And there, the most amazing development of nature takes place. Bacteria naturally occur, so there's nothing added. They grow there and they feed on the impurities in the wastewater. So when you flush your dishes and wastewater down the drain, there are actually natural organisms that are designed specifically to pick that up and use it as food.
Okay.
And they grow into a sludge.
Okay.
And in the process, it results in the second part of the wastewater stream going off as clean water.
Okay.
It's the most amazing thing, and I would encourage everybody to go and have a look because it's really fascinating.
Sure, I think, and we've always wanted to know, I suppose. Is there any process after that happens?
Yes, it's disinfected so as to be safe to be returned to the environment, usually back into the river.
Okay, and that river then ends up back in a dam, which ends up back in our taps.
That is correct. In South Africa, on the Orange River, that water is actually reused 6 or 7 times before it hits the sea.
Okay, so that is absolutely fascinating. But from me as a consumer's point of view, I'm not involved in that process. I'm just involved with making sure it goes down my toilet or down my drain, and then I hope that it comes back through my tap again. And when there's this drought, we don't have water in our taps anymore, and we wonder what it is that we can do. So later on in the show, we'll discuss what I can do at home to help solve that crisis. But it seems like a whole bunch of systems have been developed to help us save water in the process. What are those systems, and how can we improve them from a macroeconomic point of view?
Well, the most important thing is to avoid leaks. These leaks can be pipes in the road, it can be valves, it can be within the households that you have a leaky toilet system and you see that just a drip, drip, drip is enough to be a serious waste of water.
Sure.
And indeed, in South Africa, what we're finding is that this glass would normally have been full, but we're actually wasting half of it. Well, actually, 40% of it is being wasted rather than being used for drinking.
Actual consumption, all the things you're drinking it with. So obviously, Dave, I would never have assumed that a drip would have been one of the major causes. I would have assumed that maybe showering for too long or bathing instead of showering would have been an issue, or, you know, I don't know, those sort of issues sound to me like something more important. But I think from a domestic level, like I said, we'll chat about that later on in the show. What are some of the ways that we can use government to help create water? Why aren't we creating systems that we can filter through seawater, something like that?
The local authorities are all looking very much ahead. Water projects by their nature take 5 to 10 years to implement. So we have to, as engineers, predict what is going to be needed for the future. And desalination of seawater is one of the options, but it's actually the very last option because it is very energy demanding.
Yeah.
And
which we know we also have a crisis of anyway.
Sure, and there are actually better ways that the authorities can implement.
So what are those?
Well, for example, instead of industries using drinking water, they can be encouraged to use recycled water, which has a lower quality, but still good enough for the purpose of industrial production.
Yes, because all the water is used there is just to cool down things.
Yes, yes. Eskom is one of the examples. There's a geographical thing too, because often the recycled water is not available where it's needed. And so there are schemes to pump water from the source back to either industry or also irrigation of farmland or even within towns, the sports fields and parks.
And ways to reuse sewage water within city centres?
Yeah, I think it's really the reuse for sports fields. In South Africa, we've got many examples of treated water being recycled back onto golf courses and, as I say, parks and...
Okay. So it's an expensive routine. It's something that we really need to think about from a governmental level when looking to the future, but also considering the cost implications as well as predicting what the future is going to be like. So, Dave, I'm really appreciative that you've kind of given us a broad picture of how the system works and what it is that we can do from a macro perspective. I'm excited to see what we can do on a personal level. So you don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're joined by a representative from the Department of Environmental Affairs and Planning to discuss how we at home can conserve water in our daily lives. Don't go anywhere.
Clicks. Feel good. Pay less.
Welcome back. You're watching Afternoon Express on SABC3. Now, our baby chips, baby marrow chips are out of the oven, and this is what they look like. They look absolutely
golden
incredible.
and crunchy, and that is a success right there.
Wow, I can't believe I just called them baby chips.
I like that. Let's go with that.
I also think it's cute.
So over here, we've just got some chicken sausage. You get all different types of chicken sausages at Woolies. And this one is a chipotle sausage, which is a yummy flavor.
So did you squeeze it out of the case then?
Yeah. So you can use normal chicken mince, but I find sausages have like quite a yummy seasoning and
They do.
herbs and whatnot going on.
We
so
love sausages.
it's kind of a cheats way of seasoning up your chicken mince without actually having to do anything.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
So to
Okay,
assemble
cool.
this poutine, you oven-proof containers, just whatever roasting dish you have, whatever. These kind of just get thrown in here,
Okay.
and then you're going to spoon over
Am
some
I
of the
going to
meat.
spoon the chicken?
So, like I said earlier, this is a Canadian dish. It apparently originates from
Canadian.
Quebec. And the word poutine actually means, in slang, it means mess. And you're about to
Mess,
find out
okay,
why.
okay.
Because there's nothing glamorous about the way this dish looks at all. It just tastes so fabulous.
It's just, yeah, usually the most unglamorous looking dishes taste the best.
Yeah,
Yep.
let's go with that today.
Yeah, that's the theme
Tomorrow
for the
we'll be
day.
making something beautiful and be like, oh,
yeah.
the more beautiful it looks, the more
Yeah.
fabulous it tastes.
Whatever takes our fancy that day.
So
Okay.
the base of this is the chips, gravy and cheese. But, you know, obviously people, you know, fancy it up and put meats or
Okay.
other vegetables or other sauces, all these kind of things. But it is
Right.
quite a fast food, but a delicious fast food.
But
you
in a
know?
healthy one too.
Yeah, well, ours is healthy. but
Reasonably
Traditionally,
healthy.
it's not so healthy.
Okay.
That's looking amazing. And like I said, messy.
And I can imagine you can use mince as well if you want kind of
Totally.
like a
Well, yeah, I mean,
Mexican
this is
twist to it,
effectively
yeah?
a chicken mince, if you want to look at it like that. Some cheese. Traditionally, it's made with cheese curds, but you don't get that in South Africa, so we're going to use mozzarella.
Okay.
I'm just digging in here. My hands are clean. That goes over the top, and then comes, you can put whatever amounts of cheese you like, however cheesy and delicious you
The
would like it
cheesier
to
the
be.
better,
The cheesier the better.
always.
And when you pull the
Always.
chip out and it kind of like sticks to it.
I know.
Then comes the gravy. So this is just a regular gravy from Woolies.
Just normal
You can use
gravy.
a chicken gravy, whatever. You know, it's the sort of trick is to go for something that's already made. You don't want to make it yourself because this is a yummy fast food. I hate calling
Yeah,
things
it's a
fast
TV.
food.
Is it a TV dinner?
Yeah, it is a TV dinner. I don't like calling it fast food because it sounds like it's really bad and gross for you, but this
I know,
isn't.
right?
That goes on there, and then some fresh herbs just to kind of lighten it up and make it
Right.
all sorts of delicious. And because I said fast food, we're just gonna grab a whole bunch like this, use our kitchen scissors and snip,
And snip it.
snip. And then this goes into the oven. You can grill it for just until the cheese is all melty and golden.
yummy.
Or you can put it at a high oven, say 220 degrees, again, until the cheese is melty
More
and
cheese,
golden.
more cheese, more cheese. Go to our website, afternoonexpress.co.za for the full recipe and shopping list. Okay, cool. Over to Danilo on the couch.
Bombizzle, you sure know how to make it sizzle. So now we've learned how water makes its way into our homes and how it's recycled and what problems our country faces with regards to water supply. But what can we do at home to make a difference? Joining us from the Ministry of Environmental Affairs and Planning is James Styan to share water-saving tips in order to reduce water consumption. And I'm very excited because I have government on the couch. So I'm just going to sit back, relax, and let's first give us a quick understanding, James, of what your perspective is on this water crisis.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Wish we had a canteen like that at work.
Yeah, instead of the fries that we're being served, right?
Look, in general, what people might be forgetting is just the size of population growth that we're seeing, not only here but globally. But just some figures: South Africa, 1996, we had about 40 million people. Today, we're sitting at 55 million people.
Wow!
So it's an incredible amount of people being added, and yet the amount of resource, the water that we've got, isn't really increasing. In fact, the rainfall patterns are decreasing. So those two things going together is exacerbating the crisis that we're in.
Just logically, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like a big funnel. The more you try and add to the funnel, the more nothing's changing at the bottom there. We're still going to end up in the same kind of
So we're
crisis.
fundamentally going to we're going to see lower rainfall patterns, I expect, into the future for decades to come,
Yeah.
and increased population growth. So essentially, what we really need to start doing is create proper behavioral change. People need to change the way we live, the way we consume water. It's very simple.
I thought you were going to say that from a domestic level, we should stop having children and stop overpopulating. I thought that was going to be the domestic level we should deal with this
Where's
on.
the fun in that?
Yeah, where's the fun in that? So, James, let's talk about the serious stuff at the moment. The fires that we've been experiencing, wildfires. supplies. The heat waves we've been going through in our country at the moment, they seem to be increasing in number, and it's a huge danger for us. How does this affect our water supplies?
So the concern that we have, huge concern, given the water problem you've got. So dam levels are lower. The veld everywhere is a lot drier. So it's a lot more prone to catching light, and when it burns, it's going to be, it's just going to run away. So that is the concern we've got with the current water conditions across the country, is that if we're going into a much drier, much warmer summer season until about February, March across the country, it's a huge concern. Are we, given the condition of the veld and the nature out there? So.
Exactly. I think the consumer at home, what I'm feeling at the moment is that I obviously got some short-term goals that I want to try and achieve, because I don't want to get water restrictions at my house. I don't want to arrive home and not be able to take a shower. I don't want to be able to do those things. So there must be certain things that we can do at home now in the short run to help solve this crisis and help prevent these sort of water shortages. What are some of those solutions?
Yeah, so everybody can make a difference. If we all pull together, it really can make a tremendous difference. And just changing our behavior. So if you have a shower, just put the bucket in your shower, and so the runoff water, just you go and you throw it over your plants. I mean, it makes sense. Why don't we do it?
Won't the soap kill all the plants?
No. I mean, what do you use when you shower? Don't you use
bleach?
Soap? Exactly. A lot of the soap we use, it's environmentally friendly. I mean, otherwise it's going to take your skin off.
So that's an interesting one. Put an empty bucket in the shower, anything drips off that gets in, they use that for watering your plants.
But most of the water anyway doesn't have the soap in it. The soap, would run off you, but the water that falls into the bucket is generally water that just falls, doesn't touch you.
Another one is obviously repairing leaks. We spoke about it earlier on. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so leaks and taps that aren't closed tightly, Just check that your taps are closed tightly. Check that when you attaching hose pipes or things to a tap, it's attached properly and it doesn't drip. Just dripping taps can waste so much water. On the screen there you can see up to 8,000 litres of water per month a leaking tap can waste. It's astounding. So every little bit helps, and if everybody in the country does their little bit, we can really just make a tremendous change.
Sure. So we've spoken a bit about the idea of putting buckets in the showers and fixing all the leaks. What are some of the other things that we can do? Just give us more practical tips. So we want to make this list at home.
So if you do have a swimming pool, you get a sail, put a sail over the pool, so that just because it's so hot, you see a lot more evaporation. Yes. So your pool's going to go empty a lot quicker, and then people fill it up again. Yes. We don't want to see people filling their pools up, given the current conditions of our water. So put a sail over your pool. Don't when you're brushing your teeth or when you're washing cutlery. I know sometimes I do it myself, and my wife watches me very carefully these days. When you're washing a cup or you've had coffee, just letting the water run and washing the cup out under the running water. I mean, that's crazy. Brushing your teeth, letting the water run while you brush your teeth. Who hasn't done that? Just those kind of things. Take a bit of water in a glass. When you're washing, fill up the basin a little bit and use that. Another practical thing is just take a little short shower rather than having a bath. Bath can take up to about 140 litres of water. Short shower can use about 60 to 70 litres. So
it's less than half.
You can cut down, just by changing the way you wash yourself, you can cut down your water usage by half.
Sure, that's interesting. One thing that I've always wanted to understand is the flushing systems and the way cisterns work, because I find them such an impractical way to get rid of waste, particularly in toilets. I know my cousin and I lived together, and we lived together before, and we had this terrible rule where it was 2p, 1 flush, which was one of the ways that people could go and not use as much water, because it's a lot of water that people used to waste in that process. Obviously, we don't do that anymore because I just feel unhygienic. But why is it that our water cisterns are so inefficient?
You're clearly not married yet.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's just standards, global standards, just the way our toilets work. And it's like we've got to have 7 or 8 litres of water per flush. You can cut that down tremendously. So I would suggest speaking to a plumber. Call in, just give a guy a call, ask him what you can do, because you can by placing, for instance, some people advocate you place some people put bricks in their system, but I'm not advocating that. Call an expert to about that. But placing a brick in your cistern would just mean that you require less water to fill it up. So when you flush, it only uses half the amount of water that you would generally need. You can cut down a lot of water usage in that way as well.
All of these solutions, are they able to help us in the current, heading off into summer, which we already are, all these heat waves that are coming, are we able to eliminate the crisis that we're facing immediately, or is this a long-run solution?
It's a long-run solution. We've got to change the way we live, because we're going to see challenges like this, I think, over years to come. And if we don't start adapting the way we live now, it's going to create increasing problems into the future.
Exactly.
So it's as simple as that. And then, we can't make it rain, but we do require rain. We need rain, and we hope that it rains.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's many things we can do, and I think the most important thing you're saying is just be conscious. Wherever there's being water used, find innovative and cool solutions for you to kind of reuse that water in your systems at home. So James, you're not going anywhere as well. We want you to have a quick chat about what we can do at home as well with some of our viewers and things like that, as well as with our conversation on a macro level to see how can we combine these two solutions. But you don't go anywhere, because after the break we continue our conversation surrounding the heat wave and water crisis in South Africa, and we catch up with former Miss SA and businesswoman Cindy Nell. Don't go anywhere.
Show them how much you love them with Bob Martin.
Welcome back to your Hump Day right here on Afternoon Express. And today we're chatting all about the water crisis in South Africa. On the couch today we've got an engineer as well as water experts, David Crombie and James Styan from the Department of Environmental Affairs and Planning. And we've been discussing different ways that from a macro level as well as from a micro level, yours and my household, how we can help solve this crisis, because it is something that's going to affect each and every one of us, and we all have a role to play in it. And I get this feeling that South Africans and people in the world generally just have this perception that until I have no water in my tap, I will not take action. And I think it's a problem. We need to start doing it now while we still have the water to conserve it for the future. I think that's a big thing. So let's first start with you, Dave. Any comments or things that have come up since we last chatted?
Well, I think that it's really important that from school-going age all the way through to adults who run households and even in retirement villages, that we become aware of the precious commodity called water. And it's up to all of us to really learn the value of that water,
yes,
as opposed to its cost. It has a tremendous value if we have it, and it has an even bigger value if we don't
have it. Absolutely. So let's talk a bit about pollution. I've heard that's quite a big one. What is government's understanding of this thing? Because pollution contributes quite a lot to the way that water is wasted. I know you can talk about it from an engineering level, from the sort of flooding, etc. But how does pollution affect this?
Where does water come from? It falls from the sky, and then it gets caught into catchment areas, dams and rivers. So a major problem with pollution, one major problem is the plants that are not indigenous to our areas, black wattle trees. These kinds of plants that don't really belong in South Africa, they use a tremendous amount of water. And we need to get rid of them because they are clogging up our waterways, so which means when we get a lot of water, the water doesn't go to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
I'm sure Dave would agree. So we need to look at those. So when you plant, whatever you plant, plants, make sure it's indigenous, it's local to your area. That also would help to conserve water usage in the Western Cape, for argument's sake. You would plant a lot of now I can't think of the word, the Western Cape indigenous flora, which simply...
Oh, fynbos.
Fynbos. My goodness, how can I remember the word? I'm trying to think in English.
I'm trying to think of trees,
Afrikaans word. Yeah. Anyway, fynbos, yes, because it's already adapted to the area, so it doesn't require a lot of water. So why would you go and plant plants that you would require a lot of water? It doesn't make sense. So that is one type of pollution that I think we need to look at. We need to look at clearing up our waterways, clearing up our dams, make sure when we get the water, it doesn't run to waste or get sucked up by plants and things that are abusing it, really.
Yeah. Okay, and then let's talk about pollution itself, because I notice our country's also got a huge crisis when it comes to that. I get so frustrated driving down the roads and seeing people throw packets out of windows, and it really does irritate me. We've got a beautiful country. How does that affect our water system?
Well, it obviously is very negative impact on our water system to have excessive pollution. I just want to pick up on one point that was raised earlier about the indigenous vegetation. South Africa has a very active Working for Water program, and it specifically targets large stands of alien vegetation and clears them out. And it's been particularly effective. So we're well on the way in terms of managing our alien vegetation from a governmental point of view. It's now up to us as individuals to pick up the lead and follow on that.
Which involves, now we're talking about pollution.
Right, so the pollution part of it, what happens in a riverine system is that there are natural organisms that will help purify the water. And those get inhibited by pollution from sources such as industrial discharge or litter. Creates a really bad negative situation in rivers. So it's very important for us to avoid litter. And this reflects all the way back into our stormwater systems, because a lot of the litter that we see going into the stormwater system ends up in the rivers. And that's really negative and will eventually impact the quality of the water and lead to increased treatment costs.
So I see there's a lot that we can do, gentlemen. It's a lot that everyone can do on their private levels as well as all industries, etc. There's a lot that they can do. And I'm sure the industries are being managed by government. They're being managed by policies. I don't think our homes are being managed enough. So I'd like to know just from the Department of Environmental Affairs and Planning, any final comments for somebody sitting at home right now? What is it that I should be doing right now to save this crisis?
Talk to your children. I think that's very, very important. Talk to your children. Tell them we need to create little blue and green scorpions, and they need to be the ones that tell the parents, Dad, don't throw the litter out the window. Close the tap. Mom, listen, wake up. Don't have a bath. Have a shower. Let's take a shower together. Talk to your children. Train your children. Teach your children. We've got to use water wisely. We've got to use it properly. We've got to... If we don't, our children aren't going to have water one day. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been eye-opening for me also. I think many South Africans need to learn that there are little things that we can do which affect us on a much grander scale. Too many people living in the world at the moment and the same amount of resources naturally just works out the way that we need to be more conservative about the way that we deal with water. So thank you so much for joining us in the loft today and enlightening the rest of South Africans. And another beautiful lady that enlightens my life, Nell.
Welcome to our Fresh Pack Natural Goodness series. Summer is well and truly here, and with the warmer weather comes a desire to make some changes in the way we live, what we eat, and our fitness levels. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be focusing on just that, getting and keeping fit. What better role model than one of our best-loved celebrities, Nell, who seems to have it all, a lovely family, a fulfilling career, and a positive attitude towards achieving a healthy lifestyle for herself and her family. But before we start, let's pour ourselves a cuppa. I've made some Fresh Pack green tea. You love green tea.
I do. I've actually only recently started drinking more of it, and I like it.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel good.
And how do you do it all, Cindy? I mean, you do it with such style and grace, and you're just an efficient mom. You're a working mom. You've got a lovely family. Just what is your secret? I think I always ask you this every time I see you.
Bonnie, I don't know that there's a specific secret. I think it's just making better choices every day.
Yeah.
So instead of having a sugary drink, having a nice cup of tea. Instead of having sugary meals, having low GI meals. Instead of sitting on the couch watching TV, going for a walk, or waking up 20 minutes early and doing a bit of meditation. I think it's choices that you make every day.
Yeah, and it's not something you do once and then it's all fixed forever. It's about consistency.
Exactly. It's about every time you order breakfast, you say, I'll have rye bread instead of white bread, for example.
Of course.
So it's the little things, and don't they always say that it's the little things in life?
Yeah. And so with just your fitness regime and healthy eating and making sure your family's eating healthy and they're fit and they're keeping well, how do you fit it all in?
I don't know. Superwoman. I really don't know. I think, women just get on with it. We just do it, and we do it gracefully, and we do it with ease. And it's an attitude. It's an attitude about life. It just says, you know what, I'm blessed to have children. I'm blessed to have an amazing career. I'm so lucky to have the opportunity to live in this beautiful country where I can go out and go for walks. And I think it's an attitude where you just say, you know what, I'm so excited about life, as opposed to it's weighing me down because I've got so much to do. And then you'll find that you actually get more things done.
And with the summer months here, hydration is really important. I mean, I hear people complaining about heat waves right now. So what are the essentials when keeping well hydrated throughout summer for you?
Well, drinking a lot of water. Keeping water in your car, keeping water in your bag. Just stay healthy.
I mean, you were saying earlier that it's actually easy to hydrate yourself with a healthy cup of tea throughout the day. You just keep a pot of it on your desk and you just keep pouring some.
Keep a pot of tea on my desk and I keep drinking it. My friend Lucy told me that apparently I'm supposed to have 5 cups of green tea every day to look as radiant and young as he does at the age of whatever he is, but he looks amazing.
And he has 5 cups of green tea a day.
Well, he says that's the secret. And let me tell you, coming from him, I think it must be true.
Well, I'm definitely taking a page out of your friend's book. Choosing a healthy lifestyle is within the reach of every one of us, and the results are profound. Starting with the foods you eat and the beverages you drink, it makes sense to choose the natural goodness of brands you know and trust. Until next time, keep well with the natural goodness of Freshpack.
Freshpack. Goodness comes naturally.
Salati Plantation Select adds subtle sweetness to toffees, caramel, bran muffins, or sprinkled into a spicy curry. Salati. Always good, always sweet.
Hello and welcome back to Afternoon Express. It's a hump day. We're discussing a very important issue with a water crisis in our country at the moment. And so many of you guys have been responding on our social media sites, and we appreciate it so much. One of those comments was from Mongi Nyukana, who says, this is a serious problem in South Africa. I think there should be a schedule, just like they did with load shedding. They must switch off the water, maybe at night or even during the day when people are at work. So, Dave, is this viable?
Well, we've got a much better solution as civil engineers. What we have already implemented in many places throughout South Africa is to reduce the pressure of the water at night. And this makes a significant difference to the amount of water that is used and also leaks.
Fascinating.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so everybody has access to water, but the supply drops off because the pressure is very much reduced.
I see.
We also have a caller on the line, Marlene. Hello, Marlene. Welcome to Afternoon Express. How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's your question or comment?
No, he was talking about the bucket in the shower. I use a baby bath and everything gets, all the water off me plus what's scattering around goes in the, and then I take it out and put it on my plants. That's what I wanted to say.
Well done, Marlene.
Thank you very much.
That is a great, great initiative. I hope South Africans will learn that too.
Idea.
Dave, you were mentioning about other methods of collecting water. Through like drains and
Oh, yes. Grey water systems where you have a system outside that collects only the water from your sinks and your basins, and that is then used for irrigating your garden. And there are many opportunities for people to reduce their drinking water consumption by using that wastewater.
Fascinating.
Oh, wow.
So, James, you were talking earlier on in government about like sort of water restrictions and things like that. What is the crisis we're facing? Are we going to be experiencing water restrictions this summer?
There's already water restrictions. Yeah, there's water restrictions already. And I think we're going to see those increasing across the country, and especially around the coastal areas. So you're going to see a lot of people come down to the coast over December, as we like to do, like Jeffries or wherever, you know. And then that's just going to add additional huge pressure to especially the coastal areas. And on the west coast of the Western Cape, for instance, very dry area, some concern there especially. So, you know, some added pressure over the holiday season, and people just need to try and use water sparingly when they go to the beach.
Okay.
Sure.
We also have another caller on the line, maybe. Hello? What's your
Hi,
comment?
how are you?
I'm good, how are you? Welcome to Afternoon Express. What's your comment?
My comment is, instead of showering in your own, shower with your steady.
Shower with your...
In other words, you shower with your girlfriend or you shower with your wife. You don't shower alone.
Shower with your steady. You used a very good word
love
there.
that.
I like that.
I love that. Is that viable there, James?
Thank you.
No comment.
I love some of these solutions. There's so many things you can do. That does. It's halving the amount of water.
Shower with your steady. We've got another caller on the line. Gwen. Hello, Gwen.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome.
I'm not online yet, am I?
You are on the live show right now. Welcome.
I just wanted to mention that I had a break in the water pipes just outside of my property at the water main. And I found the first day that we had the break, and during the 3.5 weeks, I phoned them 3 times, and it took that long before it was fixed, and the water's pouring down the street all that time.
Wow.
Why can they not fix the problems like that sooner?
Oh, isn't it good to have government in the building?
3.5 weeks of water pouring down the street, and you hear them next door, around the corner, everywhere.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Great comment.
Thank
Why are you looking at me?
Well, I'm interested to know. Obviously, that does contribute to the way that our water is getting wasted.
No, of course it does. And you should go and speak to your local council. You should go and speak to your municipality. You should take it up with your friends and colleagues and sign a petition and tell them, listen, we need to make a change. If there's an issue, perhaps there's a very real, logical reason. Perhaps the reason there was a bigger problem there. I don't know the particular details, but if it's a persistent, niggling problem, just take it further. Don't, go do something about it. Go to your council offices. Go speak to demand to speak to the mayor.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
So if I do see something like that happening, where do I go? Because I don't even know, to be honest. If I see a water burst, I don't even know who to contact.
Just go online today. You can go online. You can go to your local municipality website, and their contact details are there. You should find all the details there. If you don't have access to the internet, just call. I think what's that telecom number?
Oh yes, we can get
just
all
ask
the
them
details.
for details. But just contact your local municipality as quickly as possible, and keep at it.
I'm sure thousands of South Africans are calling Afternoon Express now. Like, this is what I want to do. This is my problem in my area.
I mean, you guys have been talking some serious issues. I thought you'd be very hungry.
Yes.
Yeah.
How much water did you consume in making this dish?
None.
Good.
I only washed my hands.
Guys, don't forget, please continue this conversation on all our social media sites if you can. It is a very fascinating one on what we can do at home, and particularly share with us the stories that you have of how you are conserving water in your home. Hopefully that'll inspire the rest of South Africans to do the same thing. This food looks delicious, by the way, but make sure you guys join us again tomorrow for Afternoon Express, and make sure you tune in early, because during the first 15 minutes of the show, we have the prize winners of Win a Home live in the loft. And in the kitchen, we're making a healthy watermelon, fennel, and pistachio honeycomb salad. Sounds delish.
Yummy.
Cool. So let's...
Goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Happy eating. Good night.
Bye.
This looks amazing.
Should I dish up for you?
Yeah, would you like some water?
Coming up tomorrow on Afternoon Express, we chat to Teresa Martins, the woman behind the international fashion and decor brand TM Collection, and we get under the skin with Maps Maponyane.
Another feel-good production.
Hi YouTubers, thank you so much for watching the show. Be sure to not miss another episode by clicking subscribe right over there. And we'll see you every day. Afternoon Express. Enjoy.